especially pegmatite, but he also have a very important scientific collection. All his specimens are very well documented. That's his best point and the point of interest of his collection, to have nice specimen, but very well documented for history, for locality, and he do that as a real museum. He is the curator of his own collection. We collaborate a lot about analysis, about the exhibit. This exhibit is part due to the Peter collaboration. As Patrick said, Peter is scientific collaborator of my section in the Natural History Museum of Luxembourg. And we do a lot of travel together. We visit some mines, and it's always a pleasure to be with Peter, to do exchange with Peter, to discuss with Peter. So, and I think it's why there is so much people today to learn about Peter knowledge. Up to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Patrick and Simon, for the introduction. I will share my screen now. Let's see here. Share screen. Let's see, I will just check. So, is it clearly visible?
Not yet.
We have nothing on the screen, so perhaps your PowerPoint is on another window.
Let's see. A window application. Aha, this one.
Yeah, perfect. It's coming.
Yes, I never saw it like this before, so that was new to me. Okay.
Okay.
So now you have soon full screen.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So there may be a delay. Ladies and gentlemen, I will give you a short introduction. I will talk about the deposits of Pakistan, and we will mention a few. I will give you quite a few images. So I will start with some basic geology, geological concepts, some mineralogy. And we will look first at gem pegmatites in northern Pakistan. Then we will look at some different type of deposits. So it will be rather basic, but we will come to some rare minerals as well. We are not going into a lot of detail, and I cannot even treat all deposits of Pakistan. I selected about a third of the images which one should have to completely cover Pakistan. But they have quite a lot of deposits, and especially during the last 40 years, Pakistan and neighboring Afghanistan has been a major supplier of mineral specimens and gems. And just as much as I speak about geology, mineralogy, I will also speak about and show primarily the mountains, the people, the conditions, how they live, how they work. And what is to be remembered is that most miners in Pakistan, they're very poor, and they are farmers, and only part-time when they cannot grow the crops, they're working in the mines. Now, of course, they have many deposits at very high altitude, which means that temperature can be down to minus 50 degrees, which we will see at a couple of places. So I hope you will enjoy. Some of the images I will show in a short sequence, because the images will tell a lot more than just me talking, and I have very little text. And the text is primarily for those who want to review on YouTube later on. So it's not meant for you to read. I think it's enough that you listen to most. And so it's more for documentation. So we have the exhibit From Dark to Light. Here is my son, and this case is with the Jura Mountains, and right next to it is with Pakistan. So I just want to thank all the photographers who took mineral specimens and in the field. Many of them are my dear friends in Pakistan. And in fact, because I've added quite a few for this talk, I haven't been able to put everyone on, and I apologize. What you should know is that the Hindu Kush, Karakoram, and Himalayas are all bordering in northern Pakistan. And the Karakoram is the highest mountain range in the world with, I should say, the biggest number of peaks over 8,000 meters, and Kator is 8,600 meters. Now the minerals contain a lot of rare elements. So we will start with, and I will tell you a little bit why Earth is so special, because the mineralogy on Earth is very, very unique, and there are many reasons for this. So of course, everybody has heard about the Big Bang. So in the beginning, when we didn't have any larger elements, so the first gem that would form, or the first stone, rock mineral, as we say in mineralogy, would be diamond, because it's element number 6. So to form larger elements than iron, we need a supernova explosion, 2 neutron stars that collide with extreme energy. So here we just have the crust. So the crust of the Earth is usually between 10 and 50, 60 kilometers. Under the oceans, around 10 kilometers. This is very general. Then we have the mantle and we have the core. So some we know about the inner of the Earth, but some things are still not completely known for obvious reasons. We can't drill it very, very deep. We have drilled on Kola Peninsula, 12 kilometers something. But with geophysical method and studying the rocks that are coming up to the surface, we can draw some conclusions. So if we look at the chemical tables from hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium. So the granitic pegmatites that we will start to speak about, they contain many of the elements that do not fit in normal rock structures. They're too small or too big or incompatible with many mineral structures. These include lithium, beryllium. Bore is also one very important for formations of pegmatites and pockets, fluorine. And of course, aluminium silicate is the main component of the crust. So if you look on the third or fourth row, I should say, you see iron and then nickel. Many meteorites are iron nickel meteorites. We also have stony meteorites. So the larger elements, they are in fact quite unique to planet Earth. We do have platinum also in meteorites, for instance. So here is basic. So planet Earth, because of radioactivity from uranium, thorium, potassium, 40, and so on, it is not, although the planet is 4.6 billion years old, it hasn't solidified. And therefore, we also have an upwelling in the mantle, asthenosphere, and we have continental plates that are drifting, which means that we have collision where they collide, like the Himalayas. We have subduction, like, for instance, off the coast of, west coast of South America, where the ocean floor is pressed under and then melting up, forming, as we can see on the left side here, volcanic mountain range like in South and North America. I will not go into too much detail, but we will come to the Himalayas a bit later. And of course, we have water on the surface, in fractures, in rocks, 2-3% in rocks, and we have the atmosphere, and we have life. We have plants and animals. So therefore, we have about 5,600 minerals, while other planets have 50, maybe 100, maximum 120 minerals. So in fact, the number of minerals during Earth have evolved. So during Earth development, the number of minerals also increase. So the first beryllium minerals came 2.95 billion years ago. Now, if we speak about igneous magmatic rocks, that means molten rocks that reach the surface. Here is just an example from Chile. If it doesn't reach the surface, it will not have the same structure. So here are examples of granite. So granites are felsic magma, means they're rich in silica. And to the left here, you can see a reddish granite with a vein, which is called pegmatite vein. Pegmatite, in fact, only means that the crystals are larger. So for different reasons, they crystallized. Here in the granite, the same feldspar, quartz, and micas crystallized in a fracture and filled it. And to the right, you can see some grass growing. That's in a cavity. So when there are special conditions, they can form cavities. At depth, which this granite crystallized at quite a few kilometers depth, there are not so many cavities, and they tend to form higher up in the Earth crust. So if you have a depth of 3, 4, 1, even 1, 2 kilometers, you have a bigger chance to have more pockets where we find beautiful crystals and gem material. Here is another granite or granitic pegmatite vein to the right, where you can see that the crystals are bigger. Granitic pegmatites, they can be up to kilometers long. And here to the left, you see another vein with my daughter. It's about 1.5 meters in the Boise granite. And you can see the segregation of several zones. This is a very simple pegmatite. So pegmatites, in fact, it's a whole science by itself to study what elements are in each pegmatite, how well-defined zones are, what type of pegmatite. They can crystallize within the granite, as we saw, or they can penetrate through surrounding rocks in fractures. They will cause fracture because of the high pressure. So the water is enriched in these solutions when the granite crystallizes, and the rare elements are enriched. So in the late stage, you can have very high percent of lithium, beryllium, scandium, rare earth elements, cesium, tantalum, niobium, and all of those are needed for high technology. Everybody knows about lithium batteries. Beryllium can be used for many. It's as strong as aluminium, but half the weight. So here you can see, when you see those pegmatites, you can see that the side rock here, it has been deformed. So it was plastic wall rock. It tells us that it was quite warm when this pegmatite penetrated. And they can interact with the wall rock also. Here is just a couple of examples with larger crystals. You see a big beryl crystal, and here a big amazonite. It's a K-feldspar with a bit lead that colors it green. But what is important here, you can see that the crystals, they're not only centimeter, but they're meters. And if we look at the age of different pegmatite regions, to the left, you see a number of pegmatite fields. So they're very specific periods of the Earth development. And we will go to the Himalayas and Hindu Kush to the very, very right. The pegmatites are very young. And here are some Eurasian granitic pegmatite regions. We are going to Pakistan, and I will show a few detail maps for you to see. So Pakistan surrounded by, well, the main thing is India and Afghanistan and China, of course. But the geology is the Indian plate once was down by Africa and drifted northward and collided with the Eurasian plate, or Asian plate, we should say, and created the Himalayas, the Hindu Kush, and the Karakoram mountain ranges. And here you see the mountain range: Hindu Kush on the left side, on the left to the west, Karakoram in the north, Himalayas to the east. I will start to speak. I have marked number 1, 2, 3, 4. In fact, these are regions 4. Then we go down to Sapat Kagan. Then we go on the west side following. So this is the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and here is the Himalayas. So we are looking at 3 mountain ranges, starting in Karakoram, which is very majestic mountains. And here is it's too detailed to see. I'm just hinting at, in Afghanistan, you have a lot of lithium pegmatites. We also have in Pakistan to the right, but it's more beryllium and also carrying topaz. And they're very young. Most have been age dated 8 to 12 million years old. There are probably some that are forming right now, and the oldest are 24 million years old. I believe that, of course, there are some that are much older that are exposed in some places. And I have one student that I'm working with who is age dating some of these now. So you can look here, mountains crisscrossed with hundreds and hundreds of pegmatites. In fact, there are thousands of pegmatites in each region that I will discuss. And they vary very much, even within one mountainside. When you have 2,000–3,000 meter elevation, you will have a fractionation of the various pegmatites. And of course, these mountains are so enormous, a lifetime is not enough to see them all. I call Pakistan land of Inshallah, and here are some images which will tell you why, and I will show later a few very blurry images on purpose. Now here you see the Indian continent drifted, collided, and the very northern tip of the Indian continent is what we can see to the right, is the Nanga Parbat and Haramosh Massif that uplifted some 8,000 meters perhaps. And there I do believe that there's some older pegmatites. Nanga Parbat to the left, here is a Stone Age village to the left, bottom, and to the right a dear friend who is a mineral dealer. It's typical with topaz, aquamarines, epidotes, and some minerals. As you can see, the region is very high altitude, 7,800 meter, Shuma Bakur, where we will start. So we'll start to the left, we'll go to Haramosh, we'll go down to Shengus, we'll go a little bit to Astor and Raikot by Nanga Parbat, and then we will go over to Tormik here, we'll go to Shigar Valley, Braldo Valley, and then we will continue for the south. But this is very high mountains, as you can see here. I forgot from Haramosh to the left here, we also go to Laila Peak, but there are many more deposits. So we start at number 1, 2, 3 now. Hunza Valley, this is a photo from my friend Ali Isaac, who is a mountain guide up there. And this to the left, the valley you can see going up, that's going up to Shuma Bakur, a mountain of the Hunza Valley. Absolutely fantastic mountains, some dangerous crossings of rivers, and beautiful local people, old picture. So I want to show you a little bit of the culture also, making chapati bread, making buttermilk in the Hindu Kush. This is a friend Ali Shad from Shengus, who's living in Skardu now. And it's interesting because it varies. There are only 2% analphabetic, so 98% can read and write in Hunza Valley, very highly educated, while you can go to the next valley where only 2% can read and write. Here is a friend from Austria, Alfred Schreilechner. He was taking people on mineral collecting trips, but now he's living in Brazil, but he's been many places in northern Pakistan like I have. Here is a ruby in marble for Hunza Valley. I will show many Pegmatite districts. Near granite intrusions and pegmatites, of course, you will have a heating. So if you have limestones, you will have a very big chance to find rubies or spinels. You will have chances to also find emeralds. And I will not speak in detail, but it's just for you to be aware. So Hunza Valley does have rubies. I have pictures from some of the mines there, but I will not show everything. We will start at Shuma Bakur, very high altitude. Excuse me, 4,600 meter. And here is you can see the mine, Shuma Bakur in the middle. They work here from afternoon, 1, 2 p.m. until 1 to 3 a.m. in the morning, because it gets so cold, -30, -40 degrees at night, and it lasts until noon. So here is the mining camp, 4,200 meter, deposit ore up to 4,600 meter. But here is the main zone by. So these brave miners, in fact, I have a picture when they're just leaving in October, when it was -55 Celsius, which is what we can expect only in the very north of Sweden or in Siberia or northern Canada, USA at times. And here is Isaac Ali. See the beautiful view when you have good weather, but when the weather is not so good, it's very difficult. So I write here hydrothermal veins. The Shuma Bakur I saw already in 1985. Those are not really granitic pegmatites. We can call it pegmatite because of the grain size, that were big aquamarine, but they're growing on veins, fissures filled with mica. It looks more like Sobaoding in China, which is a scheelite, primarily scheelite deposit, but also beryl and perhaps the world's finest scheelite and calcitrites. Here is mostly beryl. There's some apatite, fluorapatite, and fluorite as well. But here is a fantastic picture that Alfred took showing the crystal. This was the first I saw showing crystals in situ. Later, I've seen a few more that local people have taken. Here are the miners. You see, even in the summer, they can start mining in end of July till October. But you see how much snow it is on the mountains. Here is the southwest face. Snow has melted, and they have to trim the specimens to carry down the mountain. As you see, here is a big boulder with a few small aquamarines, and here is a fantastic specimen with major crystals. The typical lot would look like this. And I will show you a few fantastic specimens. I mean, the highest quality specimen that have been found the last decades. To the left, a beautiful Spinello twin of fluoride, which is calcium fluoride. These are extraordinary. These are some of the finest ever found on our planet from here. And here is Spinello twin with aquamarine. Fluorite, big crystal, beautiful big aquamarine specimen, and a huge fluorite Spinello twin. You see the colors can be pink or green at this deposit, sometimes bicolored. and the left aquamarine is a bit more elongated, which is rare. Here is a fantastic fluorite and fluorapatite combination of muscovite, and another beautiful spinello twin. Here's the mining camp. There are about 50 teams of miners living there. Shumabakor means iron grass, very, very hard grass, and the deposit was found by a man who was herding his animals up on the mountain. Here is the first miner of Gilgit. I'm trying to track down and record different historical facts also. I will not present all of that here. Now we'll go to round number 2, just for you to see. We will go to Haramosh Mountains. And this is what it looks like. This is my friend Ismail Shah, who is a geology student now, just finishing his master thesis and then going on to PhD. And I was helping him a bit in which part of the mountain of his home region, which would be good to start sample for his master thesis and then continue for his PhD. So Betash Toko is the Shina language. There are 30 different languages in Pakistan, and most people in northern Pakistan speak Shina. So if you learn Urdu, you are not very much help here. Here you can see the Haramosh Peak with different faces. There are about 50 mines. It's hard to see here, but to the right, you could say, and 50 mines towards you and 50 mines to the left. Haramosh Peak is 7,450 meters, so very, very high altitude mines. Here you can see what it looks like. I think this was photo from Ali Shah. And here's from Google Earth. You can see the mountains are very steep. And I went there the first time. You can see the pinnacles to the very right. There's some pinnacles, and the best mines were right up on top. And we will climb up there now. Here's my brother that I had never met before. He was living in this Stone Age village, and I met him walking up the mountain. This is what it looks like. I had been sick for a couple of days. Somebody gave me water from the local stream, the Nala. So I was feeling like 100-year-old when I was walking up here, eating antibiotics, very, very tired. Here's Dubane, beautiful sunrise in the morning. And here is a local family, miner's family invited me for breakfast climbing up. I asked the people before I started, I didn't know anyone living here. And I asked them where there's water, spring water, Utse Way. So they were pointing up on the mountain, Utse Way, but they didn't tell that it was at 4,500 meter. I started down at 1,500 meter. And here is a Stone Age house. The animals are living under where the children are standing to the left and the family to the right. And here is the family, 9 children and a cousin, and most without shoes. There's Libaba, the girl in the middle. And they have plenty of beautiful, they very rarely eat meat here, but plenty of fruit, corn. Here is meat, mountain goats they catch. And here we're getting close to the mines. This is in one aquamarine mine. And here's another one. For those who are experts in geology, you can see this structure is very fine. It's not very blocky. It's not big grained, and very rare pockets in those pegmatites. But when they found pockets, they can be incredible quality. Right above the right hand here is a bent aquamarine crystal. And here's my brother Asim, who is a full-time miner in Haramosh. And now we're getting up to the mines. You see this ridge here. I showed you the pinnacles. The mountain behind Rakapush is 7,800 meters. And here's with my brother. Why I call them brother, they really became like brothers because walking up the mountain, I met 2 guys from this mountain village first. And with hands, they were speaking, showing me that I must not say that I'm coming to the mines because nobody was allowed to go there, not even Pakistanis. Nobody had ever been to their mines. Only the local villages are allowed there. So they told me they told their father, not even to tell their uncle. Their father was miner, their uncles were miners. So I was there to photograph snow leopards. And on the way up, I could overhear them. So I told them, I managed to make one sentence that you're my brothers from Haramosh. It was really the breakthrough, and we have stayed in contact ever since. Here you can see the vertical cliffs with some lighter spots. They're in fact hanging off ropes and drilling into the cliff. I was very thirsty, and before I came to the spring, I found some beautiful berries, and the first berry was absolutely fabulous when you had been without water for quite a while. And here is up at the mines. Absolutely amazing views. And the peaks behind me, those are the top one here, a little bit to the left of my head, is where the specimen to the right came from. It's in the MIM Museum in Lebanon right now. And here is a zoom in of this clip. So you can see to the right here, there's several veins. I don't know if you can see with my arrow. At the very top, that beautiful specimen came from. There are 3 major mines in this cliff, and it's very, very high. It's up here, vertical cliffs, and very high altitude. And here are 2 specimens that my brother found, both of them. The topaz to the left, aquamarine to the right. Absolutely unbelievable quality. So here, the quality can be better than Shigar Valley, which we will go to soon. And here is my brother Wasim to the left. And I will just show you a few pictures to give you a feeling for. When I came up to the mines, I had to go down to the Utsi way to get spring water. I was completely exhausted after almost 2 days of climbing. And holding hands is a sign of friendship. Here's a local miner holding my hand by the spring water, which is right by the buoy in the background. And these are some of the crystals, not the tourmalines in front. These are mostly from Haramosh and Shuma Bakor to the right. Here's inside the pocket. Here is from this mountain. Beautiful shoal tourmaline, beautiful aquamarine. And the crystal here to the left is not clear. I collect all kinds of scientific samples. So I want to study the fluid inclusions. I want to see the whole variety of minerals, not just the prettiest ones like here. Here you see the topaz again. And the aquamarine to the right is doubly tourmaline, but very interesting crystal structure. On the surface, it is not etched. It is the growth that we see. And here a garnet, very unusual from Haramosh. Families are gathering up on the mountain. And here is one of the mines with compressor. Pegmatite look very simple, local boys. And the topaz is absolutely fantastic. But I should say there's about 1 nice find every 10 years. They've been mining for over 100 years here. And in the beginning, they were just trading it for shoes or salt or some. Hydroxyl hydride comes from here. Fantastic crystal, more aquamarine. And here is a beautiful aquamarine. You can see the surface is beautiful. And very, very wild mountains. I call this Haramoshin because I was sleeping just out under the clear sky. And one night there was a strong earthquake. I moved into this place where it was protected from stones falling from above. So snow leopards are native to this area, as are peacocks. I was calming off in this ice cold water because I was very hot from eating antibiotics also, and climbing up, it's quite strenuous. So they were just speaking their Shina language and body language, but we understood each other very good, and it's very important to try to get close to the culture. Grandfather was 107 years old when I visited, and grandmother, he lived 1 more year, and grandmother became 116. And we can think that they have no idea about such, but they were extremely good in mathematics in this village, even though they had no education. Very talented people. And they all were wondering what I was doing. So I heard a couple of years ago that from one Pakistani friend, he told me, in this village, they tell, this Peter, he's crazy, absolutely crazy, very, very strong man. It was only because I was sitting in this ice cold water for 45 minutes, which they would never do. So anyway, here's family, my little son with a local aquamarine, and my family in Haramosh Mountains. And I'll show you a few things. They're gathering hay. They decorate themselves, the men, with flowers. And nearby, there are quite large emerald crystals up on Kantaro Glacier. And there's a pegmatite even with goshenite emerald combinations in pockets, very rare. And Haramoshla, 5,400 meter mountain pass going over to Laila Peak, which is completely other deposit. Here are thin veins with black sheryl crystals there, which are here documented by my brother Ismail Shah, up to 8 centimeter pointed, very steep terminations, very unusual. And here's Ismail's father Malik, who found this Laila deposit, and not only the tourmaline, but the lazulite to the right from Laila base camp, which is not base, it's extremely high altitude. Laila Peak is almost 7,000 meter. And to the right is an etched aquamarine from Shengus. We will now go down from Haramosh, or from Laila Peak to Shengus, Bolachi, and then Staknala, Tormik, and to the very right, Shigar Valley. So, sorry, I also by Nanga Parbat, I mentioned here is from Rykot Valley, and then we have from Astor also tourmalines from the span collection. I think the crystal left was about 4.5 centimeters, right 2.9 as I recall. And here is down by the Indus River, which crosses from Skardu, crosses in between Nanga Parbat and Haramosh, and then turns south and bends down all the way down to the Indian Ocean. So here is Sassi on the Indus River. Big part of the village fell into the river with earthquakes. Of course, you have very strong earthquakes here. The mountains are still rising. It was plus 48 degrees when I started my climb up the mountain. So here's beautiful garnet from this area, beautiful Aquamarine Tourmaline. And my friend Ali Shah have taken pictures of the pegmatite. You can see on the other side of the Indus River are many, many pegmatites. There are many on this side also. But from the road, these are the easiest to look on the other side, the Bulachi side, we call this side. And you have to cross the river hanging under a rope or steel wire, which is very dangerous. Here are some mines where you find the verinonite. They become underwater sometimes. Sometimes the crystal gets very etched. And here are some verinonite. It's a rare phosphate mineral that was first found in Finland. And the miners want to sell everything they find, and they ask some crazy price that some mineral dealer will come and buy. And sometimes the crystals are this good, but it's an extremely rare mineral to find the crystals larger than a centimeter. Eosphorite childrenite, garnet in aquamarine by Conferspa to the left, and the cut verinonite, and pollucite. Pollucite and beryllinite. So pollucite is cesium mineral, beryllinite, beryllium mineral. Beryllinite here comes in very clear crystals, sometimes large cogwheels shaped up to 35 centimeters. And this fantastic aquamarine to the left with the quartz and the beautiful albite comes from the White Mountain, which is on the way to Skardu. And the last few years, I think about 10, maybe even 15 years, the first gem quality triplite, a rare phosphate, iron phosphate, I think it's manganese also, that came out from this area. I gave the first two to the museum in Vienna because the curator, he was completely crazy when I showed it to him. But I will get us other pieces, Simon. They got the two, one for cutting and one rough. And here's Andreas Schmidt, a collector and beautiful photographer from Austria. You can see the edges of these garnets, absolutely beautiful. Here is a morganite from Schenges, the verinonite, one of the largest best specimen I've seen, 17 centimeters. There was another from another place, 23 centimeters, but broken in bits and pieces. Hamburgite on tourmaline, hamburgite on aquamarine. And here's my friend Ali Shah. Now we come to Staknala. Staknala is a thin pegmatite vein and produce some, it's only a meter and a half thick. There are several veins in the same mountain. Haramosh here is in the village. There's a specimen, a Staknala, and beautiful tourmaline. To the right is a shoal, which is very rare there, growing on topaz. And here's a fantastic hamburgite, morganite on elbite, topaz on elbite, fluoride on shoal. And those are, of course, some of the most beautiful specimens there. We are going now over to the Shigar Valley. So on the way to Shigar, we have Tormik in the middle. I don't see my mouse. Here it is, Tormik. So here are alpine clefts. They differ completely from these pegmatites that we've seen. And if we go down here, Shurkanala, Hashupa, Al-Shuri, those are alpine clefts. And when we come up here, there are hundreds of mines of pegmatites. And these are alpine clefts. Alpine clefts means they're very, very thin fissures, typically of other minerals that we find in granitic pegmatites, like we can find hematite, ilmenite roses, we can find epidote, axonite, quartzes, and so on. So this is what the mountain looks like. This is looking up the mountains towards Tormik. Tormik is on the backside in the valley. Oh, I don't have in fact, you can see the rutile to the left from Tormik Valley, and there was a cut, and that I think it's an axonite. And here it looks like this is from the span collection. When I moved the PowerPoint, I lost some of here is beautiful rutile, and these are fantastic rutiles also in the span collection. And this is unbelievable specimen. I think it was 5.7 centimeter long, front and back side. Just beautiful. So these alpine clefts contain some major specimens, big epidotes, and this fantastic rutile, about 4.5 centimeter. Colors quartz with actinolite needles. The right one cut by Viktor Tuslakov. And here axonite from Churkanala, which I just showed. Fluorapatite in alpine clefts, clinozoisite, epidote, and cut suicide. And in fact, there's suicide crystals that are bluish purple, almost looking like tanzanite, I should say, also in this region. It's not so well known, but it's very, very cool. Large epidotes. I've seen epidote crystals up to 25, almost 30 centimeters that looks identical to Knappenwand, Austria, the most famous epidote locality on the planet. And here is a bit zooming in on the mines. This is what the valley, Shigar Valley, looks like. Shangri-La Hotel, Shigar Valley, an aquamarine with a shoal included from Ross Benke collection. A typical great find of aquamarine crystal will look like this. Mostly broken, a few good and a few clear crystals. And now I will show a sequence of nicer specimens. Same pocket, topaz and aquamarine, but not on the same specimen. Included with shoal, edge to the left, nice group. Here's from Teston to the left, and scepter and with spiral helix inclusion, and fluorides of various morphology. Octahedral fluoride typically form under a rather high temperature, and fluornatron microlite from Shigar. Simon will like that one. And here up is view from the mine to the left. They only found quartzes, they said. But they had found a 1 meter goshenite barrel, which they rolled down the mountain because it was too big. I don't know why, because probably it had at least gem quality inside of specimen, some specimen value. Here is a rare combination of topaz and aquamarine on the same piece. And the rare form of aquamarine, this determination is steep. So these topaz have been irradiated. That's why they show so strong color. I'm showing them to show the beautiful termination. And we have a rough triplet, very nice one. Here is aquamarine Onic window quartz, very unusual. It's very old photo, so it's not so good, but I haven't taken a new one of it. And here is detail of where the Shigar Valley goes into the Braldo Valley going off to the right. And that's the road they go to climb the Sagi Mountain. And this is just some of the mines that I have pinpointed. Here is the Bensapi Cliff, where many years ago, I suggested the miners to mine here because I could see dozens of veins that were showing pockets. And they had made a few small holes like here. And later, you see the cliff to the left. They can use the mined out granite for road gravel, of course. And they found some of the best aquamarines ever found on this planet in this area. These are from a cliff nearby. So specimen cleaned. I'm going a little fast, but I hope you can see, enjoy. These are extremely unusual specimens of aquamarine. Such big groups. Big topaz. Topaz here is not as big as some other pegmatites we have in Ukraine or Brazil, but the one to the left is very large for this area and fantastic etching. And all this etching and everything tells about the specific conditions in that pocket. Here are the local miners, several were blue-eyed. And this is just an interesting, does he even have a job? He still sells stones there. That's not what every father wants to see their girl have a boyfriend. Now my kids, they have an even crazier dad because he doesn't sell the stone, he buys them. So here is coming home after one of the first trips to Pakistan, or the first trip. Here are some specimens I got through Pakistani dealers. So sometimes you can get something from miners, but the best thing is you let the local dealers buy it and they will ship it for you. And usually they come to mineral shows in Europe and then you can buy it there. I'll just show you an example here. The man to the right was a student from at university, a PhD student in mechanical engineering. So a week before going to Pakistan the first time, I invited them for dinner at our summer house. And Sheila to the left, I was telling her, and she said, well, let's call my brother. And I had no idea. He was general, one of the highest colonels in Pakistan. And in principle, I could go wherever I want with his help. I didn't need that, but it was very, very nice backup to have. And here is my friend Asif, who met me at the airport the first time I came. And when I had landed, I heard, Mr. Peter, please come to the reception. So how big is the chance that one of your best friends at university, wife's brother, is the highest colonel responsible for the northern areas of Pakistan? And this is the blurry picture. You see the road to the right, left turn, left-hand driving, and usually the cars are passing the other cars without seeing anything. Every second turn, you're risking a frontal collision or going off the cliff and falling a few hundred meters down. And to the left, you see a big truck with animals, and usually they had potatoes on top or cages with chicken. I call it land of Inshallah because after riding Karakoram Highway, you have 35 hours, 40 hours to ride on this highway to get to northern areas from Islamabad. After 4 hours, you have been having so many near collisions, you just better close your eyes and look at the view and don't look what the driver is doing because it makes no sense. It's too dangerous. Therefore, I call it land of Inshallah after 4 hours on Karakoram Highway. We will look at a few more beautiful specimens, hydroxyl hydrite, and then we'll take you to mines further to right. Here's a beautiful blue aquamarine to the right and a beautiful girl. Here to the right is from a big pegmatite, big, huge green gem crystal, almost emerald colored, from another pegmatite that's not in the Granitic Cliff you saw before, but in the Nisus to the north side of the Indus River, or the Brother River, I should say. Here's an old mine tunnel, beautiful crystals. Oh, that was double, hydroxyl hydrite and hydrite from MIM Museum, unbelievable combinations. Inclusions are many, many. I could show 50 pictures of inclusions here in Topaz. Combinations and one of the oldest specimens labeled from here, and a few great pieces that have been found. Going fast, but I show you many beautiful pieces. The crystal to the left has, I think it's in Paul Bordowski collection, and I guess it has grown some other minerals on the surface that later fall off, but beautiful termination, absolute marvelous crystal. And here is the cliff. And what did they now find there? I told the miners, when you mine here, every 10 years you will find a very good pocket, and the other years maybe will pay for the mining if you're lucky. And before they were climbing 2,000 meters up, and this is what the mountain, the cliff looked like when I was there the first time. And 2019, they found this incredible pocket with the largest specimen of gem aquamarine ever recovered. And here it is, 232 kilo approximately. Then they trimmed it later, so maybe it's a bit less now. And here is a little boy of a local mineral dealer when they brought it down this vertical cliff. It was found quite high up on this vertical cliff I showed you before. And there's some rare gems that can be cut also. Titanite, triplite, hydroxyl hydrite, allanite, not transparent, verinonite, and huralite from the Gale and Jim Span collection, all from this area, from Shigar Valley. Here is from Basha Valley, which is the side valley up. So I showed you before also from Hunza Valley. There are ruby deposits all the way from Hunza. There's some in Basha. There are emerald deposit in Basha. There are emerald deposit to the west also in Pakistan, not only in Afghanistan and Swat Valley, but also further north, Shangri-La Resort. And now we go down to Sapat, which was found only about 25 years ago. Perhaps the best large peridots, forsterite, I should say. We're coming there soon. Also in Pakistan, in Kashmir, right on the border to India, Kashmir, we have several tourmaline deposits. They're big tourmalines, and beautiful tourmalines. There's some morganite, some fluorapatite. And here we go to Sapat Peridot. This is what the area looks like. Very high altitude, very, very cold. To the left is a picture from the winter, and to the right you see the mines. Very few pictures have ever been published from this area. There was a recent article in Mineralogical Record. I documented quite a lot from here. I interviewed the first people finding, and I have a friend who was offered the very first lot from here. And they have interesting inclusions. They occur together with magnetite and asbestos, and right nearby this demantoid, so it's in in a very thin, narrow zone where there were 11,000 miners working at one time. And here's 200 plus carats peridot from the Wayne Thompson, Laura Thompson collection. And here is also large peridot or forsterite. Absolutely beautiful. We will now go down to a few corundum deposits. This is an old map of Kashmir. And on the Indian side is very famous sapphires, but also on the Pakistani side, here's a lot I saw a couple of years ago from Pakistan. And my friend Manan Shah, here you have his coordinates. If somebody want to contact him. Here is from Nangimali Ruby mine, and then from Batakunda Sapphire mine. This is just to show you have to climb up the mountain, quite high altitude, not like what we've seen before, but 3,500 meters. One mine is supposed to be at 5,000 meters. I haven't visited here, so these are all his photographs, because I wanted to show you this going up the mountain, reaching the mine, very tough mining. So of course, this is in a marble, and rubies are confined to very, very thin zones where there's some fuchsite mica. Here is the mine, and they cannot start mining until July because there's a lot of snow, of course, at this altitude. Here's the mine, and ruby from the Span collection, and I'll show you a few rough rubies also. Here are rough rubies, and typically 1 to 2% are what we would call gem quality, really that is getting transparent or higher quality like these. These are very, very beautiful ones, and some are beautiful specimens. And camping at altitude, here you can see cleaning small rubies. And of course, during mining season, there maybe find a couple or a few small clear ones. What is interesting here, you can see the zone to the left, the veins where the ruby occur, and the matrix with the fuchsite to the right. And here is a beautiful crystal from the Envirus minerals. As I recall, it was 2.9 centimeter crystal. Very, very nice one. This is a beautiful specimen. And now we're coming to Batakunda sapphire deposit. On the road to Batakunda, it's a graphite zone, as you can see on the left. You see the dark behind the man. And it's some places it has corundum crystal. This is what it looks like. Terrible. Maximum 1% is gem material. I didn't study so much of it, but there was a big lot many years ago. What I understood, there wasn't so much I haven't seen look through, but here there's some that are gem quality, and who knows, maybe the miners, I don't know how they can see with the graphite if they can shine through and separate, but this is Manasha, who just recently have sent those images to me. And beautiful, what is interesting is the multicolored sapphires here, crystals and cut stones. And here they're pinkish. They are very, very high red, strong red color in fluorescent light. So that really looks like ruby, but very few are getting towards ruby. Here is, they call them trapezoid ruby. So we can call pinkish or red. So it's a question, where is the border to pink sapphire to ruby? Here is called, they call them trapezoid ruby. 22, 15.64 carats is another trapezoid from Manasha. And to the right is multicolored, bi-tricolored sapphires. And here from the Span collection. So now we will go a bit, here is up Chitral valleys in the very north. Here there are also emeralds recently found in Chitral, this dark aquamarine frozen. And then we will go down to west of Peshawar. I will just show you, this is in fact, here is Peshawar or north of Peshawar, Katlang, where there are thin calcite veins in Gundao Hill, where it was discovered in 1972 by a farmer, and the veins look like this. There are two types of veins, two generations. So the ones that are beige colored can have pink topaz, and of course the other ones have topaz, but they don't have any strong pink color. This piece was found in 1974, an unbelievable deep pink red color. It's there's some in Ouro Preto in Minas Gerais, but I would say here and in the Urals are the ones with the deepest color. And we come further south near the border to Afghanistan, west of Peshawar, Sagi Mountain, well known for rare earth minerals. It looks like this. I've written farm of some warlord because I had been in Peshawar, but we didn't go out to this mine because I heard there was some local warlord who was owning the property there. Of course, you can be dressed as I always am, as a Pakistani with beard and so on, and local clothes. Otherwise, you should not go to the mines without that. Bastnasite, there are many beautiful rare minerals here. I will just show a few. Here's going up the mountain. Here's marine minerals. It's in fact Fadden quartz. I think I named it. Looks almost, I don't know if it's Gwinder, but Fadden quartz blue with enclosures. Here are some small diggings. Looks like an old house building. And here's a gentleman, old gentleman. Look what he has found. So rare earth minerals. I don't know which species this is, but they just pick it up. They do some small digging. The world's best bastnasite here from the Span collection. Fantastic cut stone also. Parisite, bastnasite, and monazite, and this rhabdophone pseudomorph bastnasite. I think I might have put another photo of that. Gadolinite, it's nearby, not far away, and xenotime. And this is what it looks like. So we go up to Swat Valley. It is north of Peshawar. I'll just show you a few pictures from there. I have plenty, but here is one specimen. And here is a beautiful specimen on calcite. They're also, in fact, in combination. It looks like several. I've seen specimen together with black micas. And we will now go south of Peshawar and look at several deposits in Balochistan and Waziristan, where this beautiful brookite on quartz, 10.7 centimeter, the best brokites in the world. Brookite is titanium dioxide, just like rutile and anatase, just the morphology. And axonites, we saw axonite from Shigar Valley. Here's axonite from the west side of Pakistan, a faceted one as well. And this bicolor to the left is magnificent. I forgot the name of the photographer. You have to excuse me for that. And then a few years ago, we found those, I saw the very first ones. They were 2 or 3 centimeter pink feldspars. Reed Mergnerite, I think, in fact, they did some new analysis of them. So along these borders, when the local villages become interested, they're finding more and more interesting minerals. So that it turned out by analysis it was a new mineral species. And we're going now down to look at where those beautiful brookites are coming from, and anatites also. So I don't see my power here. You can see those thin fissures. When it comes to alpine cleft, it doesn't really matter so much what the rock is. What matters is that those hydrothermal solutions penetrate, or they create cracks, or it opens up cracks and crystallize quartzes, axonite, hematite, brookite, anatase. You see the small fissures here to the right. Here is a pocket. Miners have to work very carefully not to damage. This is from Fine Minerals International. It's James Elliott who's the photographer, as I recall, and there's several centimeter large crystals. These are world-class crystals. Same this one. I think this was 4.85 centimeter, and this one as well, Fine Minerals International. And here is also one I lost the text. It's a magnetite. There are several deposits with beautiful garnets, magnetites, typical alpine. This, as I recall, the crystal 1.8 centimeters something, but this is probably as the best from Bintal. And this is a young photographer in Belgium, who right now I'm a little tired, so name slipped me, if you have to excuse me, and the photo caption was lost as some of the others. Here is a Fadden quartz. There are many beautiful quartz localities here. Probably almost 20 years ago, we came the first Fadden. Fadden is the growth zone, as you can see, a stringe in the middle of the crystal. It's believed that they form when the fissure opens up and the crystals is, you could say, pulled apart almost. And here's a Gwinder quartz, a twisted quartz with a Fadden from the same area. And here's one more from the Span collection. And we're finding many types of epidotes. Here's a big one. Here's another type with this beautiful bow tie to the right, as you can see. It sticks out. And here, anatase. Surprisingly, the one to the left is just about as good as the Norwegian ones, although they can be bigger. It looks like one from Valdres. I could bet, but they are very, very similar, but very few are this size. 1 centimeter is more normal. And there's a matrix to the right. And one of the latest finds are brucite in this area. This is the last picture from a deposit. There are also new finds of beautiful calcite and fluoride down here in this area. Now, these are coming into sedimentary deposits. And of course, they can be of fascinating quality. If we think of gem crystal, they can be beautiful specimens. But I will stop here, and I want to thank all viewers, and I want to thank my family and mineral friends who always, support and that we share information with, Dr. Filippo and many other friends. And of course, to my closest family, because when you go to Pakistan or places like that, you are gone not for 1 week, but several weeks. My wife, she don't want me to go to this part of the world for obvious reasons. There are always risks for earthquakes and stones falling down and various culture. I am very grateful to all my Pakistani friends. I have never been to any mines in Pakistan with any Pakistani mineral dealer. I have always gone completely alone or just with the local miners. And I think the key, people ask me, how do you dare to do that? Well, I never brought anyone to the worst places, most dangerous, most difficult place. I usually go alone because I cannot guarantee safety for anyone. I have a group that I'll probably bring to Pakistan that have asked me. And if you just respect the culture and you always try to look upon things in life from the perspective of the people you meet an old poor miner who lives in a Stone Age village up on the mountain, where you have to go a 19-kilometer donkey trail to get down to a road where cars can drive. You cannot speak to somebody from New York City. You have to try to understand them. I think that's the key to travel. And of course, I love people, I love cultures, I'm very interested. And if you really, wherever you travel, if you take it to your heart and really are passionate, I think you're up to only positive things. So thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you very much, Peter, for this very, very, very inspiring, passionate talk. So, and for the discover of a region I have never seen like this on TV, when you're speaking about Pakistan as normally other things, very political things, but not such beautiful landscapes and mineralogical wonders. So are there some questions in the public or from the public?
Maybe I will just mention, I didn't say so much about the people, but for instance, these miners that I've met, I meet them on the mountain. I've never seen them in my life before. They immediately took care of me. They are extremely welcoming. When I was in Islamabad and I met with this general who greeted me, it took 5 days. There was supposed to be a flight to northern areas. I checked in luggage, everything. I went to the gate, and boarding is now, and then, flight is canceled. It went on for 5 days like that. So I had to stay with my new friend, the general in Islamabad. And then it ended up that I went by road. I went with another friend by jeep, 35 hours up, and we went through Kohistan all night. And you're not supposed to drive through Kohistan at all at night because robberies are very common there. You have 200-300 people blocking the road. Even if it's a big bus, they will take everything they can. And it's not uncommon with shooting also, so you should never go there. Better wait even 2 weeks for the flight. That's why it also takes very long. It took me 2 weeks to get to the first mine. So you need to expect 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks for such a trip. But hospitality is number one in Pakistan. Very, very friendly people, I must say.
When have you been there? Several times, or?
Yes, I've been there a few times, but many mines, Simon knows it, many mines I go to 20, 30, 40 times. In Pakistan, it's different because there's so many mines that you cannot, and it takes so long time that you cannot visit each mine too many times, because it takes you, like I said, 2 weeks for me to reach the first mine. So my first trip to Pakistan, I aimed to go to the most difficult places, because the easy ones you can always go to, but the most difficult, that was my main aim. And I chose 3 of the highest situated mines. But I also couldn't imagine how much time it would take. You have to sit in the village down in the valley. And there are Shia Muslims, there are Sunni Muslims, there were Sunni Muslims there. And I was discussing for several days why you want to go up on this mountain before they will even let you climb up to the next village. So you have to tell that while you want to see the geology and you want to see maybe you can help the local miners to find something because I know something about geology. So it's interesting. All the people in northern Pakistan, they know me now just Mr. Peter. And I had 2 dear friends who traveled many years later after my first trip in northern Pakistan, and they tried to go and see mines and they couldn't. And it was in fact within the same season. One called me from Pakistan, you will not believe what just happened. So he was trying to speak with people to go to mines. No, because you're not allowed to go to most mines. And then somebody he met, I'm not sure who it was, he mentioned my name, and the person said, you know Mr. Peter, you know your friend of Mr. Peter. And he welcomed him in for dinner and took him to the mine. And this only happened 2 times during these many, many years, but it was the same season. A second friend called me, was probably about 2 months later, and the same thing happened to him. So it was very, very nice to get the feedback. It means that whoever they met, that they knew who I was, and it was very positive. So I tried to give them help, to give them antibiotics to have. I help miners who cut their finger with inflammation to clean with iodine and tell him, don't go down in the valley where it's plus 48 degrees. Stay here for 2 weeks until it's healed. Don't go down, stay where it's 0 degrees, because they put chicken dung, so they get terrible inflammation. Maybe chicken dung is better bacterial than it's down in the valley, but I always try to help the local people.
We have here a very, I think, an interesting question by Andy Hopkirk. What
Yes.
mineral have you not seen yet, if there is such, that you hope to see on the next trip?
Oh, well, one thing is to see the minerals. My key interest, of course, I study minerals. We study Iron Simon, we study in the laboratory and SEM, we look at fluid inclusion, gas inclusion. We study everything in micro minerals, because we want to find out how they form. But the key to find out, some people, they will sit, I think, too much in the lab and locate specimens. But if you don't know exactly which vein and where in the vein it came from, it's like if somebody brings you a flower into the laboratory. Yes, you can study the flower, but you have no idea where it grew. Did it grow on limestone or sandstone on southwest face, or under specific trees? Or so the same with geology, mineralogy. I want to go and see the veins in situ and understand and take samples. Most of the samples that I and Simon collect, they're not valuable at all. They have 0 value, only scientific value, but they tell us how the more valuable formed also. So it's a lead. And there are many minerals that I haven't seen. So out of 5,600 minerals, when I was teenager, when I was about 18 years old, I had 1,800 different mineral species. There were some collected at the time at 3,200, and there were about 3,500-600 minerals known. I have seen, of course, more than that, but I would say about 1,500 or 5,600. They're so rare, they're really microscopic. But what is amazing is that still we find big crystals, even of gem quality, new gemstones of new mineral species. So we want, of course, to explore cosmos, but there's so much to discover on planet Earth. And I think it's a pity that most general public have no idea about the beautiful geology, mineralogy that's right under our feet.
Yeah, looking for another question. Yeah, there's a question about there will be the possibility to look again at the talk. We will stream it on our YouTube channel, so you can have a look at any moment afterwards. What has in our exhibition in in Luxembourg, from Dark to Light, the Dark from Light exhibition. There are some pieces were coming from Pakistan.
Yes, exactly.
What was the idea, and what was the main idea behind the this selection in the museum?
I will be happy to tell you. So it's Dr. Simon Felipe who has done all the planning, and this already 2.5-3 years ago he started, and a couple of times, of course, we meet each other for lunch and for our scientific work, and sometimes go on field trips together. So of course he was telling me what his plan. Of course I can look and come with some suggestion, but it's all the planning is his. And he did a very good concept that he started with some history. Then comes magmatic igneous rocks, and there's a special attention to pegmatites because they produce very large gem quality crystals. So in the pegmatite section, Dr. Filippo has several species, tourmalines, topaz, beryls, and so on. After this, we have 4 displays where we have the different ages. I was showing the table that during the Earth development, we have different stages where pegmatites formed. So we have very old pegmatites from Ukraine with specimens that are 1.7 billion years old. It was very special conditions that form this type of pegmatite that are completely different from other pegmatites. Then we have from the Ural Mountains pegmatites that are 300 million years old. Then we have from Himalaya mine in California tourmalines that are 100 million years old. And then the youngest ones are Pakistan. And they are very rich in the same pegmatite. You have a bit richer and very rare minerals, very colorful. And this is showing the development of the planet. So of course you had some concentration of rare earth elements, but with all the plate tectonics, and you can get more and more enrichment of this lithium, which is part of lithium tourmaline, as we see in the background, or beryllium, as in the aquamarine. So and cesium, we saw pollucite, and beryllium and berylonite. So this very late stage elements becomes more and more enriched. And in Pakistan, we have such fantastic suite of such pegmatites. And therefore, we have one special display case with this very late stage and very colorful minerals also. And following that in the display is metamorphic minerals, gems. So near those granite intrusion and pegmatites, we have the heat from these rocks that are affecting the surrounding rock. If you have a limestone, if there is some aluminium, if there is some magnesium, you can form corundum, rubies, sapphires, or you can form spinel, aluminium, magnesium oxide, and garnets, and so on. And then in the exhibit, we come to the end with some crystals and some cut stones and jewelry. So because it's a gem exhibit, it comes from the formation through to the finished stage of beautiful jewelry in the last hall.
Mm-hmm. A question from Anders Löfberg. You mentioned that you gave, I think, the miners in Pakistan a tip on where to mine in order to not to have to hike 2,000 meters higher up the mountain. Yes. Were you able to give that advice based on the general knowledge about geology you had before the trip, or was it first after you have read the mountain in situ that you were able to tell that?
No, it was reading there. But of course, when I was there, I had visited hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of pegmatites before that. Probably at least 1,000 or 1,500 that had been mined, and even many more thousand that had not been mined. So just looking at on the side of the valley, on one side you had gneisses with completely different pegmatites. This one was recently described, this Bensapi Cliff, which is a granite. It's a younger granite, I believe. And those pegmatites are very well zoned. So I can see from the structure, I can compare with hundreds and hundreds other veins I've seen. So immediately, just looking at the structure, even if I don't see the minerals that you should be looking for, looking at the structure, I can see these are very, very highly crystallized. They did not have much twisting and so on. When they have twisting and bending, you can find pockets in some specific zone where the pressure was changing or the solutions went off in another side crack. As soon as you have some change, you can find a pocket there. But those veins that are stable and long, hundreds of meters or a kilometer long, they are more serious. You have a defined vein of 30 centimeter, a meter and a half. And if you mine along that vein, you will find pocket zones. And I could see on the mountain cliff face dozens of veins. I could see where there were inundations where there have been pockets. So this was very easily visible. But they were climbing 2,000 meter higher up to 4,500 meter and mining a few weeks or maybe 2, maximum 3 months per year. And I told them, you should mine here because you can go underground and you can mine year around and you have very easy access. You have to climb the cliff 200 or 300 meter up if you want to mine the veins higher up. But if I were you, I would mine here. And that's how they found the best aquamarines ever found on the planet. They mined this cliff.
Mm-hmm. We're coming back to a previous question from Federico Bertolini. So the youngest pegmatites are the most colorful and the older are the colorless. I don't know.
I express it almost like that, but that's what you see in the exhibit. So the oldest ones, if we look at the very oldest, which is in fact not the pure pegmatites, the emeralds from South Africa, 2.95 billion years old. Because of the big grain size, we can call it pegmatite, but it's in mica or mica schist. If we take the Ukrainian ones, they are very colorful, but main minerals is topaz and beryl. Beryl in mostly color heliodor to green beryl. Some you could call aquamarine, but they're more green. So these pegmatites, they have many more minerals. So in the same pegmatite, for instance, you have gem tourmaline of multicolors. You have the irininite, which is very rare mineral. You even have rhodochrosite crystals, which I was not showing, in the same pegmatite as you have rare irininite, extremely rare. In Finland, I found 1.5 centimeter, and they're not much of crystals. They're mostly frozen. So I would say these pegmatites, including the Afghan, they are very colorful. You do have older pegmatites in Brazil, which are 500-600 million years old, that are very colorful as well. But in compared to what I show in the exhibit, so it's not a general term. The Himalaya mine is very colorful, you could say, a very beautiful pegmatite. But there are many different types of pegmatites, a huge spectrum of pegmatite. We always want to simplify life and we want to divide them in 2 or 3 or 10 or 20, but in reality, there are many more. I hope that answers the question a bit.
So here a question from Miro. How's the current mining situation of rubies, sapphires, and emerald in Pakistan?
Yes, emeralds, I was just showing a few images. I have many more. They're mining in the Swat Valley primarily, which are in sediment, I should say, in shale. Some are in fact, there are some places where there are in biotite also. And further north they have found just recently in mica schist. There is one place on the Afghan side also, because normally they are the most well-known in hydrothermal type emerald deposits here, but they're also in the mica schist where the quality is not as high, but they're beautiful and they are mining. So emeralds have been mined for a long time here. And we are not really sure the old mine, in fact, the old mine refers to the very old emerald mines that the cutters in India. Pakistan was originally or long time ago part of India, and the old mine, some say it was in Afghanistan, some may think it was in the Swat Valley, because Swat Valley is very easily accessible in Pakistan, and I would tend to think that. Of course, in Afghanistan, we had the lapis lazuli mines mined 7,000-8,000 years ago. So emeralds, yes, there's plenty of mining. Rubies, there's still plenty of mining. Now, I was showing this one mine near the border to Kashmir. In fact, there are, I would say, 2 major beautiful ruby mines there, one down in the forest, one high up. This Batakunda sapphire deposit, there are several sapphire deposits there. They are mining, but I don't know if it pays off because it's very harsh mining, quality is very low, it seems, and the few ones that are this beautiful multicolored, they are of course fantastic. But they are mining there because people are poor, and of course, you didn't ask for peridot, but they're mining peridot and emeralds. They're also mining up in Shigar Valley. I didn't mention that. and they're mining rubies in up north of Shigar Valley also. So you were asking rubies, sapphires, and emerald. I covered them also. They are indeed mining, and many of the mines, in fact, it's not one mine. There may be 20 tunnels or 50 tunnels. The same as these places I showed up in Shigar, there are many hundred mines. So on one hillside, it could be 50 mines, and the backside, another 50 mines, as I showed from Haramosh. Mm-hmm. But there's plenty of mining, but finds is another thing. There are finding, but in Haramosh, out of 150 mines, maybe 1 or 2 mines find something each season. That is good, and very good every 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, question from Marco Bianchi. Are glued crystals common in Pakistan?
So repaired. Well, yeah, I would say yes. Maybe the Chinese people are gluing everything if it breaks. If it's repaired and if it's declared, there's no problem. We have seen from China when they take one mitre, we've seen plenty originally from decades ago from Morocco, where they would take one piece from one mine and glue on the matrix from another mine even. So of course, this is a fake specimen, it's not a real specimen. In Pakistan, they will repair, and even the miners will repair without telling because they know they will get more money. So you have to be careful, but of course you have always to look very carefully. Especially if it's expensive mineral specimen, you really have to look.
Yeah. An interesting question from Michael Gray. Is it a cooperative mining by village, family, or another?
Yes, exactly. I didn't mention that, but typically in Pakistan, when you have a village, like I visited Haramosh, this Stone Age village, everything on the mountain, if you want to herd your goats or let your cow out or pick berries or mushrooms or whatever, minerals, everything belonged to that village. So nobody else is allowed to go there. So even as a visitor, you're not allowed to go on their mountain. And it means also that China has a contract since many, many years to mine in Pakistan, but that's almost impossible because you cannot come and mine there because the village won't allow it. If you come with your big machinery at night, they will screw apart your trucks. They will take every screw they can and take apart. And I know one big mine that happened to was impossible to mine. So there are some Chinese mining big scale there, but the typical is that there's somebody in the village or maybe a mineral dealer, some financier who will pay explosive, which is very expensive, compressor and drills, all the food for the miners. So that investor, when they find something, he will get a third of the money, what they sells for. A third goes to the miners and a third goes to the village. So this is their tax system. It's everywhere in Pakistan. And I think it's the same in Afghanistan, which is a very simple way to do it. Of course, they will sell to a mineral dealer, and normally they don't want to separate. They want to sell the whole lot, so they know what money they got for this lot. So maybe they sell a lot for $5,000 or $20,000 or sometimes several $100,000, and the investor gets a third, and hopefully he gets the money back so he can invest for another few years. That's not always the case. And the village gets something nice. And they are very good at this. It's normal for them to share with the village because it's helping the village very much. And many villages, they managed to build a road to their village thanks to this mining money. And of course, to get water and so on.
Mm-hmm. Question from Attila Egri. Did you visit a secondary deposit in Pakistan?
Not much. There are some secondary, like even the Swat Valley emeralds. Of course, the erosion had brought plenty of emeralds in the river. So some people are only panning there. In the Indus River, they're panning for gold and they're finding gold. Because I'm primarily interested in hard rock in geology to see the geology. So obviously, I also go to look in secondary deposits. And if you want to find primary deposits, it's a very easy way to look in secondary deposit at specific spots. If you have a mountain with streams coming down, if you find something in one stream, you go upstream and check in which stream it came from. and that's the way to track where a deposit is. So of course, every geologist do like that, you know. The thing is, when you go there, I'm not paid. This is my passion. I do it during my holidays. I don't have any extra holidays for what I'm doing in geology. So it's a few weeks per year that I can do. And then of course weekends, but I cannot go to Pakistan for a weekend.
Okay. Anders Löfberg has bought a few pieces of lazulite a while back and was told now that the pocket they came from is mined out.
Yes, I was showing the gentleman. Yes.
What do you think is a possibility to find more?
Extremely difficult. You will not find more, I can tell, because it's so high. I know the gentleman who found it. I am very, very dear friend of his son. And this is the best miner in northern Pakistan who has found most deposits. He climbed up there, and everyone else, you have to pass Haramoshla. The mountain pass is 5,400 meters. The local people, they go up there in flip-flops and their local clothes, and they risk freezing to death if they're caught by a snowstorm. And 5,400 meters, the mountain pass, it's very high altitude. The deposit is something like 6,000 meters, and the peak's around 7,000 to 8,000 meters. And what I hear, the exact location, it's called Lila Base Camp, but no, this is only what they name it, because the miner who collected them said it's extremely high and extremely cold and very difficult. And he is born there. He's a very good climber, and he's not going back. And he's the only one who knows where it is.
Okay.
So this chance is not very big.
Okay. The last question, a little private one. Surprisingly, there are surprisingly similarity with some minerals in Norway. Will you visit Norway with the Pegmatite Symposium group in the near future, after COVID, I think?
Yes. Well, you know, Norway is a very rich country for minerals and gems, in fact, and you know, compared to my native Sweden, Norway has much more rock exposure, more higher mountains, much more beautiful, colorful gems. We do have some in Sweden, but 90% of our is covered by moraine and 100,000 lakes. So the chances in Sweden, even though we have deposits, they're all covered by a lake or a swamp or a forest and 40-meter moraine. So not as easy. Norway has many, many deposits, as I said. And if those deposits were in a foreign country where the salaries were not so high, they would be mined. So for instance, we have amethyst around Stange. In Hedemar Fylke, there are many, many amethyst veins with incredible quality. Now it's local collectors who go and they dig for the weekend or for some evening, and they find fantastic amethyst. But if this was, for instance, in Russia, in the Ural Mountains, there would be 200-meter deep shaft in this amethyst vein with a serious mining project. They would mine hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pockets to find 1-2% of the best quality. So the ones coming from the Urals are unbelievable, and I'm sure that the same quality exists in Norway, for instance. And the peridots at Åheim, they are world-class. I've seen the best cut stones over 50 carat, which is in fact better than any other I have seen. But very few people have seen any such. But I know one friend, Geir, who is living in Vietnam. I think he should be one of the listeners if he managed to stay up all night. And he knows this material. He is Norwegian, and it's very, very beautiful green color, Norwegian peridot. There is a big chance. It's a big peridot mine for industrial peridot, but which is huge, much more profitable than looking for gem crystals. There have been finds in the 60s and also during the last 6 years with large peridot crystals up to that could cut big stones. But of course, Norwegians are very passionate, like us in the Swedish, to save them as specimens. So a collector will never cut the specimen. And of course, protecting the crystals with beautiful surface textures says a lot more than a cut stone. So broken bits and pieces, they do cut. Mm-hmm. But Norway has many, many things that have not been discovered yet.
Okay. So Peter, thank you again for your talk, for all this explanation. And Yeah, there are still Simon Philippot, and I think it's in 1 week we will have another talk about minerals, this time from Brazil, and Simon will talking about the Kasdan collection, which the museum has acquired last year, came from Brazil to Luxembourg, about 9,500 pieces.
500 specimens.
Yeah, and so we are very proud to have it now here in Luxembourg, and Simon will presenting the whole history and some, I think, major pieces of this and important pieces of this collection. And I think he will talking also about the person who is behind this, Jacques Kasdan, a former mineralogy professor of the Rio University. So I can still paste the link for the registration of this conference in the chat if you want to take part at the conference. One moment. So we would be delighted to have you all also at this moment, the 18th May. So it's also the International Day of Museums worldwide. So yeah, let's talk about museums and museums collections.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for listening, and thank you, Patrick and Simon.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.